Welcome back, everybody. This is Andrew DFS coming to you with the Week 8 Lineup Builder Show. For those of you first time watching, my name's Andrew DFS. I'm an analyst with FFMetrics and co-host of a new podcast that was launched this past week called Huddle Up with my buddy Sirach K. The FFMetrics site is run by an independent scout, RC Fisher, who comes up with the top leading edge predictions every single week, produces a scouting edge to all of his analytics, and just has a different take compared to the rest of the analysts. I've been working with RC for a while now, and that's insights that you don't want to miss. You get projections, commentary, whatnot. Every single game's broken down, and it's great for DFS, redraft leagues, or just handicapping in general. So without further ado, today what we're going to get into is talk about the lineup that won last week's $1 million competition on DraftKings, preview this week's slate, and then start building out some lineups, start tossing around some ideas within DraftKings. So before we get into week 9, let's give a special shout out to Jasper J, the winner of $1 million from the week 8 competition. So Jasper went with a Dak and CD Lamb stack, as you can see on the bottom of the screen. He also had Gallup as part of that stack, but Gallup didn't really perform well. So Jasper J survived the dud performance from Gallup, but Prescott and Lamb really lifted him up. So he had 32 points from Dak. CD had 44 points. Together, they had close to 76 points. But for those of you that are curious, the best stack that we've seen in recent memory, go look up Deshaun Watson and Will Fuller from 2019. That was the highest producing stack that we've seen in the past decade, and honestly probably all time too. Now, after going Dak and CD, which was fairly against the grain, Jasper J went with Alvin Kamara and Breece Hall, which were chalkier plays. You can see that Kamara was owned by 30% of the pool and Hall was owned by 45% of the pool. Those were borderline great performances. Kamara could have had a much bigger day if Taysom Hill didn't go crazy and steal 2 rushing touchdowns from him. And Breece Hall, it was if you take out that one play where it was sort of a catch and run and he took it to the house, he wasn't really doing much. And the Giants' D is really, coming on as of late. So Hall was lucky to really make up his salary and be an okay chalky play. Now we have A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown, a little more on the chalkier side at 21%. Threw up 36 points. He's been an absolute monster. The only 2 consistent things about this fantasy season is A.J. Brown and Tyreek Hill. Those 2 receivers have been really producing the past this past 8 weeks. Then Trey McBride. Cheap play, chalky, but as we talked about, we're okay with cheap, chalky plays at the tight end position, or just in general. If you're taking McBride so that you can build a Prescott, Brown, Lamb stack, that's fine too. But this time, it hit. A tight end priced under 3K went for 25 points, which is freaking incredible. That's one of the best tight end performances we've seen all year. DeAndre Hopkins, out of nowhere, just drops 3 TDs on the Atlanta Falcons. Crazy. The Falcons had really good defensive marks coming into this game, but Will Levis is just really talented. And, one of Hopkins' deep bombs was probably more on the lucky side where he pulled AJ Terrell down or whatever. That was clearly an OPI. But hey, Hopkins is a talented receiver. Levis is looking for him. So worked out and got close to 40 points. Good stuff for Hopkins. And lastly, the Seattle D, good, not great. They did their job. They got 10 points. Not the best ROI that you want to see from a defense, but hey, it was enough for Jasper to win the $1 million top prize in the Million Maker competition. And I hope somebody watching this next week is the winner of the competition. So, without further ado, let's break down the slate for this week. So it's a short slate, as you can see from my screen here. Just 10 games. So we have a game in Germany, and we have 2 teams on bye. The interesting part about this slate, before we go game by game, is we don't have Josh Allen. We don't have Joe Burrow. That's the Sunday Night Football matchup. And we also don't have Mahomes and Tua, Tyreek, Kelsey, whatever. They're in the Germany matchup. So a lot of firepower is missing from this slate, which makes it even more interesting. And you could see there's a bunch of games that have an over-under even below 40, which is nuts. We haven't seen this yet. So before diving in, you probably, in these types of slates, you want to pay up for a running back versus a quarterback, because there's literally like 2 options for an expensive play, and both could easily not hit. So let's dive in. First game, Vikings with Jaren Hall going inside Atlanta. Atlanta coming off a loss. Vikings on a 2-game win streak. I think this is a come to reality moment for this Vikings team who, past 2 weeks they've been doing great, but now they have a rookie going on the road into Atlanta. Not a good sign. Atlanta's going to be without Drake London, so perhaps they're going to run more with Bijan, pass more to Pitts, but more importantly, they benched Desmond Ridder. So what does that mean? Taylor Heinicke is going to come in. He likes to throw the ball deep. He likes to push the ball downfield, and I think that was maybe Arthur Smith's hesitations with even not naming him the starter to begin with, because Ridder just doesn't look like he belongs into this league. On the Vikings side, though, they have a pretty good run D. So what I want to look at here on the Falcons side is play the Falcons passing guys, Pitts, maybe a Van Jefferson, a Kadarius Hodge. Those guys can come out of nowhere. And on the Vikings side, there's with Jaren Hall, there's nobody really playable. So Falcons D's playable here as well. Seahawks Ravens. So we have Hawks coming off a pretty good win over the Browns, going on the road west to east to Baltimore. A very tough place to play. Ravens they cruised to a victory against the Cardinals on the road last week, but that game box score wise looked a lot closer than it actually was, with the Cardinals just getting 2 garbage time touchdowns and having a 7-point only losing by 7. It was a lot. The Ravens were dominating them most of the game. If you're going to go into Baltimore, you need to have an elite offense. Not someone like Seattle who, they're solid. They're great. I don't want to speak poorly upon them. They got playmakers, Metcalf, Lockett, Walker, whatever. Baltimore's a different animal. If you're going to go inside Baltimore and against that D, you're going to need somebody like a Joe Burrow, a Josh Allen, Mahomes. Those are the offenses or offensively led groups that I trust against a Baltimore team. And for that reason, I'm really, really bearish on all Hawks players in this matchup. Ravens. I mean, here's the thing. You have Lamar, who's the one of the more expensive QBs on the slate, top 2. But you're going up against a Seattle D who's really good against the pass. Their problem has been stopping the run, but now they traded for Leonard Williams, who's going to help shore up that run defense. I don't like this for offensive players. I could see playing defense here, but I don't know. The range of outcomes is a close Seattle win. Seattle's not blowing out Ravens, or the Ravens beating the bricks off Seattle. So I'm leaning more this way than with Seattle winning close. I just don't think Seattle at this point can just go win on the road in a tough environment, tough crowd. It's really hard to win in Baltimore. And with that being said, I think this could also be a week for Zach Charbonnet. So Seattle falls behind early. Charbonnet maybe plays like a Jahmyr Gibbs role in that game, where he's just catching a bunch of quick passes after Baltimore sort of like letting their foot off the gas. They've got the game under control, and no reason to run Kenneth Walker up the middle. Charbonnet's been getting a lot more snap count, so that's one to watch. Cardinals Browns. So Clayton Tune, rookie, is going into Cleveland, making his first start. That's not a good environment. Cardinals have a shaky O line. Browns have one of the best D lines. This is a recipe for disaster for Clayton Tune. Mostly all hands off any Cardinals offensive player. For the Browns, Watson's expected to start. Over under there's 38. So yeah, it's not supposed to be high scoring, but I could see playing Hunt. I could see playing Watson and Cooper. Cooper's due. He hasn't had a big week, so that can work as well. Rams Packers 38.5 is the over under. So Packers have been on a crazy losing streak. Rams, they've been getting crushed the past 2 weeks as well. I think this is a bounce back spot for the Packers, but I've been saying this for the past 3 weeks. It's hard to tell. I don't know if how injured Stafford is. But regardless, Packers have a good secondary, and I don't know that this is the get right game for Cooper Kupp. 2 straight games of really underwhelming performances. So this is typically the spot where you want to chase a premier receiver like Kupp. And if Stafford was happy, happy. If Stafford was healthy, I would definitely advocate for it more. But I don't see it in this one. Buccaneers Texans. So we have Baker Mayfield going inside Houston. Houston coming off a heartbreaker against Carolina, just losing by 2 points. Houston has a really good D, so I advocate playing their D here. No Dameon Pierce for Texans, so I think Devin Singletary is going to see a bulk of the carries. Maybe it'll be like a 75-25 split with him and Boone. And on the Bucs side, I don't think that any of their receivers are playable at the salaries that are on DraftKings, but I do like Rachaad White in this, just getting those check downs, and I'm a big Rachaad White guy, so I'll always push for him. Commanders Patriots. Commanders traded away 2 of their stalwarts on the defensive line, Chase Young and Montez Sweat. So I don't know. Like, the book is pretty much begging you to take Commanders here at +3, but I think this is a game that the Patriots just win, because like Commanders came in, they played the Eagles close, but then like you also have those games where Sam Howell can't like score, gets like outplayed in Chicago and loses 40-20. Like, I'm not saying Pats are going to drop 40 on him, but I could see Belichick coming up with a scheme to stop Sam Howell. And hey, maybe this is the start of a 3-game win streak for. Oh, actually no, Patriots lost against Dolphins. Sorry, but hey, if they get the win, that's 2 of the last 3. Maybe something to build off of. Who knows? Bears Saints 41's the game total there. I mean, these are some nasty totals. And with that, I mean, Saints have a really good D. I wouldn't trust any Bears players here. But if Justin Fields somehow plays, then I'm more interested for DJ Moore. On the Saints side, this is green light on everyone. You can go Kamara, he's going to be chalky. You can go Carr, Olave, and even Taysom Hill and Saints D. Colts Panthers. Yeah, I mean, Panthers 2-point home dogs. 44 is the over/under. This is a Frank Reich Bowl right here, and I think the Colts have a lot more to want to show up their old head coach in this spot. So I like Jonathan Taylor here in this revenge sort of game, but also realize that the Colts are playing with some backup corners. So Thielen might be a really good option this week, even though he is pretty heavily priced. So you're going to have to pay a nice premium to get him. Giants Raiders over under 37.5. Wow, like that game's going to be fun to watch. You have the first game after Josh McDaniels got fired. You're getting like little like snippets of the the Raiders locker room of them be like showing more camaraderie, having a good time, laughing, joking, all that. Is this the Devontae Adams game? I want to believe that they're gonna just pepper this guy with targets after what happened last week on Monday Night Football, and generally what's been happening this entire year. So This is a good spot for the Raiders. I like them here. But I think Giants eventually just pull away with this. And I like Barkley for the Giants as well. The Raiders have trouble stopping the run, as evidenced by Jahmyr Gibbs, 155 yards on the ground. So I like the Giants, but the Giants don't have the offensive line that Detroit has. So keep that in mind as well if you're going to fire up Barkley. Last game on the slate, Cowboys-Eagles, also the highest over-under at 47. Here's the deal. You have two QBs coming in hot. You have Hurts, who's been just on a tear this season. You have Dak coming off his best game of the year. You have CD, who went crazy. You have A.J. Brown that went crazy. Could this be a game of running backs? I don't know. I'm kind of nervous playing this game. I think a lot of people are going to be on it. Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown stacks. Dak, CD maybe, trying to chase what happened last week. But if I'm going to go one route here, I'm going to lean more Cowboys than Eagles. I think that the Cowboys have the personnel to take out A.J. Brown. Meaning, just not that A.J. Brown's going to get like completely shut down, but I think what we saw last week was them stopping Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, whatever. I know that's a completely different animal. I mean, Cooper Kupp and A.J. Brown are in the same stratosphere, right? But difference between the quarterbacks and the offensive lines, no doubt. I think that the game plan for Dallas is going to be let anybody not named A.J. Brown beat us. And I think they do have the personnel to just bracket him and shut him down. So for that reason, I could see this being more of a running back, like sloppy, grind out sort of win, like a 21-20 or a 24-21 sort of thing, where Eagles like come out. That 3-point for me is huge. That -3. If it goes to 3.5, I would be on the Cowboys side. But yeah, this is going to be no less than, I think the margin of victory here is 3 or less. Okay, let's dive into the DraftKings site. Okay, let's start off with QBs that we like this week. So starting from the top. So you can see here that Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts are going to be the two highest priced QBs. And you want to hear something crazy? They're the two chalkiest QBs of this week too. And that's due to Lamar. That's just due to the slate being so low total wise, right? Like you only have one game at 47. You have a bunch under 40. Like this is not going to be a high scoring slate in my opinion. So that's why you have people leaning towards the QBs. Over 60% of the pool is expected to go Jackson or Hurts. For me, I'm going to pass. But if I had to go one way, I think I'd lean Hurts more than LJ just because I'm scared of that Seattle D. I'm a little more afraid of Seattle D with Leonard Williams and the fact that Lamar could get shut down. I think Jalen Hurts is pretty much matchup proof. You're going to get 25 out of him. There's no doubt in my mind, just through his rushing, touchdowns, and everything. So I would have more confidence playing him over Lamar. Justin Fields, doubtful. Kirk Cousins, out. Prescott's another one. Now we get into the 6,500 range. I could see this being a viable play, but again, how much are we really going to trust Dak to go back-to-back? That's tough. I would do it. I'm not opposed to it, but I'm a little nervous. Stafford, questionable. I probably don't want to play him on the road in Green Bay against a good secondary. Stroud, this is an interesting one. I like Stroud here in a bounce-back game. It seems like he's been figured out, so this could be a good spot for him to come back. 3 straight games where he hasn't thrown more than 250 yards after having several 300-yard performance games. So this could be a nice bounce back for him. I would definitely not start Geno against Baltimore. No thank you. I would avoid Sam Howell. Derek Carr would be my mid to cheap play that I like here. He's had 3 straight games of throwing 300 yards or more, but just keep in mind that he's been playing some pretty bad teams, but pass defense wise. But Chicago also fits that mold, so they can get taken advantage of. And here's a play I like. I like Carr with Olave, and reason why I like this play here. So what you need to decide in this slate, pretty much, and we'll get to it when we talk about running backs, is both Alvin Kamara and Saquon Barkley are going to be very chalky. So pick one. I wouldn't start both unless you're in a cash game, meaning that you don't care about where you finish. You get paid similarly whether you finish 10,000 or first place. But if you're in a large pool and you're going for it all, number one prize, so many people in the contest, this is a good leverage play, because if Carr and Olave connect, guess what that means? Kamara's probably not going into the end zone, or you're taking points away from those people. So sort of like it works double. You're playing the field. When you want to win GPP, you got to think about it like who's the public starting? I'm trying to beat the public. If I want to beat the public, then I want to go Carr Olave, because that takes away points from Kamara. That's a way of thinking about it. It's just a mindset you can have. Maybe I'm wrong and Kamara just loses his mind. Very possible. Very, very possible. So that's one stack that I like. Now, going down the list, we were on Carr. I wouldn't go Daniel Jones here. I think this is a spot where Vegas is a little motivated to win, and Raiders struggle on the ground, so I think this is going to be a heavy dose of Saquon Barkley. Jordan Love, he's been underwhelming for the past maybe like 3 or 4 weeks now. He hasn't really made up his salary, so I'd pass on him. Deshaun Watson, I'm interested in this. I wouldn't start him, but he could easily have 20 points in this game, which would be an amazing ROI at 5,400. And there it is, the official news that he will start against the Cardinals. So a Watson Cooper stack, because Cardinals have trouble stopping the wide receiver one, could be what hits. Damn, that is interesting. I might just play that. Josh Dobbs, he's not slated to start, so ignore him. Baker Mayfield, Texans have a really good D. Pass on that. Gardner Minshew on the road against Carolina. I could see that hitting. I think this is more of a JT day than a Minshew day, so I wouldn't go for it, but I could see the logic there. Bryce Young, I think Indy has a better defense than what's being led on here. They've had some pretty tough matchups, to be honest with you. So I think that they'll be able to handle Bryce Young, and Bryce Young always has the ability to have a low floor. But we will talk about one player from Carolina, actually two players from Carolina that we like. And then Taylor Heineke. I mean, he could hit too. You can go with a Heineke. So this can be the puke stack, right? Where you go Heineke and then stack him with Pitts, who's 4,100. And neither are chalky, right? No Drake London. Heineke likes to push the ball down the field. Okay, what does that mean? That means Pitts, right? Like Pitts is the other downfield threat. Yeah, they have Van Jefferson, Kadero Hodge, whatever. Pitts is the big play guy. Pitts on KC, Pitts on Cincinnati, Buffalo, we'd be thinking of him as like, oh, the next up-and-coming tight end or whatever. He's been really held back by this Falcons team and coaching staff. He's due to break out. Minnesota's strength isn't pass defense, especially on tight ends. Their strength is stopping the run, which could mean big things for Mr. Pitts. All right. So that was the QBs. Let's jump into the running backs of this week. So as promised, the two chalky plays at running back are Kamara and Barkley, and they're the two highest priced guys. They have 2+ matchups. If I'm in GPP, I would play one, not both. I would try to leverage one or the other. And I think it's easier to leverage Kamara than it is to Saquon, because that would mean you would have to do like Daniel Jones and like, I don't know, Wandale Robinson or another receiver on the New York side. It's tough. It's harder to see the path to $1 million with that. Kenneth Walker against Baltimore. I'll pass on that. I don't like the sound of that. I could see Jacobs. Jacobs is going to be chalky. AOC likes to check down to him. For those of you that don't know, Aiden O'Connell backup. That's what the acronym AOC stands for. Jimmy Garoppolo got benched, so he favors Jacobs. But something in me just feels like this is the Devontae Adams FU Josh McDaniels game, and the fact that the team's being run by like a former NFL player. Yeah, there's something there, guys. Like I'm not getting off Devontae this week. That's my like must play, not chalky. Like boom explosion. He's dropping 40. You heard it here. Devontae Adams is dropping 40 points this week. Not stack him. Sorry, I don't. You could play AOC. Let's go back. Let's look at AOC really quick. Let's see how cheap he is actually. Where the hell is this guy? Yeah, if you want to, 4,500. I could see it. I'm not gonna recommend it. I'm not even gonna put it on the screen because it's for my real like DFS degenerates out there that want to go and see the path. I see it. I see AOC and Devontae being a stack that works this week. I like it a lot. Okay. I'm gonna shut up now and talk about things that might actually hit. Pollard. Only reason why I like this is he's been so quiet. I know the Eagles have a really good run D as evidenced by that rank, but it's just such a good leverage play against the pool too. Not that Dak or Lamb are chalky, but if Pollard's running, usually when the running back from the other team is scoring, that means Dallas is controlling the game. But that could also mean that Hurts is going crazy too. So I take that back. I don't know. Something about him entices me. Swift is an actual chalky play, but I don't like that as much as I would like Pollard. But the guy that I like in this $6,000 range the most is Jonathan Taylor. He's going up against a really, really bad Carolina run D. Former coach where they have beef. This one's good. This is another revenge one that I like. Aaron Jones pass. Bijan Robinson, like, man, his salary has really fallen down. I remember when he was priced the same as Saquon Barkley and the kid couldn't deliver, so now he's living in this range. Yeah, I don't know. Minnesota has a good run D. And if I'm B-Flow, I know Arthur Smith is stubborn and wants to run the ball, so let Heineke loose is, I think, going to be B-Flow's game plan. Gus Edwards against Seattle with the addition of Leonard Williams, that scares me. I don't think that Edwards is going to have another 3-touchdown game. Zach Moss, this one's interesting too because I just rather pay up and get JT in that like revenge game like situation, but he does split with Zach Moss. It's closer to 50-50 than 60-40, but if I'm the team or whatever, like I think this is the one where this is going to be like a 70-30 game versus a 50-50 for JT. He needs this one. Foreman pass. Rachaad White I'd play at 5,600. Kareem Hunt I also like at 5,500. Those are the two guys in this range that I like a lot. And the last guy in the 5,000 range that I wanted to recommend is Chuba Hubbard, who is going up against a pretty bad Indy run D, right? Like they let the Cleveland running backs go crazy. They let Kamara and Taysom Hill go nuts. So I could see Chuba having a good day too. I'm probably not going to start him, but he was named the starter. Sanders barely did anything in his debut last week. And then, yeah, Hubbard's the guy back there going forward. In the $4,000 range, what I like is, let's start with Charbonnet down here. I think he's in the 4,500. So 4,300 actually. So I like him a lot. Just because I could see Seattle falling behind and then Charbonnet just getting a lot of like dump off passes or whatever. So I see that play working out. Another guy that the other two I like are actually right here, right under Charbonnet. So I could see Ingram doing good because DeMarcado's out and there's just nobody there. So you're paying 4,300 for a guy that's basically not splitting with anyone. But the problem is the game script might really not favor Ingram, so you got to be careful about that. But where the game script might work is for someone like Devin Singletary, where Damian Pierce is out and the only other guy in the lineup that can take carries is Mike Boone. Mike Boone hasn't had more than 10 carries since 2019, so I don't think this is going to be like 50-50 Boone Singletary. I think it's going to be more like a 70-30. And at that point, like, I could see Houston controlling this game with their defense. Devin Singletary, he used to work with Josh Allen, so he can catch passes out of the backfield. He's a proven pass catcher. I like this one for him. I think this can be a good spot. He's not chalky at all. So those would be my cheap running back plays if you guys are strapped for cash. Wide receiver time. Okay. So from the expensive players in the $8,000 range, we have Brown, we have Kupp, we have Lamb, and Adams. So my number one is Adams. Two would be Lamb. Two in this range, I should say, not my second overall like excited play. So above 8,000 would be those two, and I would avoid AJ Brown and Cooper Kupp. Next, going into the $7,000 range, my number one choice this week is going to be Thielen. I like the Thielen and Taylor like in-game stack, and reason why, Indy's running the ball, controlling the game or whatever, and then Bryce Young has to start throwing the ball more, targeting Thielen going up against backup corners. Thielen's not going to be a chalky play whatsoever here since his price is so high, and people are like, I paid $4,000 for this guy when the season started. Well, we saw what happened during the season, so he started doing better and his price went up. So people are afraid to really pay up for him, but I'm not. I would play him. A good offset to the Eagles is Devontae Smith because Goddard, Swift, Hurts, and AJ Brown are chalky. So Smith could be that guy to leverage against the pool. I'm not particularly excited about it, but it's just a leverage play if you guys are interested in that. So in the $6,000 range, there are two people I like. I like Olave here at 6,300 going up against a bad Chicago secondary. And I also really like Cooper to have a bounce back game. So Amari Cooper and Deshaun Watson stack is definitely one I would look at. Carr, Olave, whatever you prefer there. So Cooper and Watson are going to be the cheaper play of the two. For the rest, I really don't see anything I like here. So let's go down to the $5,000 range. So for the $5,000 range, folks, there's only one guy I like, so we can start down the list. DJ Moore's not going to really, he's not going to have Fields or whatever, so that's going to be a tough play against a strong Saints D. Nico could have a day, but I wouldn't really. Yeah, I'm nervous at 5,800. That's asking a lot out of him. Zay Flowers is tricky because I think that Seattle D, again, we're seeing that rank improve every single week. That Seattle secondary is better than what a lot of people perceive them as. You still think of them last year. You see this green rank. I wouldn't want to play Zay Flowers against the Seattle secondary. They're really coming on. Terry McLaurin, he is the chalkiest wide receiver play this week. I would be nervous playing him. I think that Washington tends to play up and down to their competition, and the team might be demoralized here, just losing Chase Young and Montez Sweat. So not good locker room vibes. Drake London, he's out. Marquise Brown wouldn't play with the backup. Tank Dell is my guy in this range. So he's starting to get more run. He's obviously coming off his injury 2 weeks ago. He didn't have the best game last week. I think he has a chance to get it this week. But out of all the $5,000 range, that's who I would go with. And I'll keep going down the list as there's another Houston receiver that I like a lot too. So in the $4,000 range, I actually have one person I like here, and that would be Demario Douglas. So let's pull him up. Kendrick Bourne is out. I think that Devontae Parker is injured or whatever, so he might not play. This guy's going to get a lot more run. Past 2 weeks, 6 targets, 7 targets. This kid's really good, and he gets like end around like rushes or whatever. The only problem that I have with him is that he's going to be really chalky. He is like New England's like number one offensive weapon, but he's going up against a Washington defense that's demoralized and was already not really that great against the pass. So I like Douglas here. Circling down. So other than that, I mean, the only thing that scares me about Rashid Shaheed is that he doesn't get a lot of snaps. Like, he got 150 yards last week by playing 30% of the snaps. So like they're not really pushing him as much as they should, which tells you a lot about their coaching staff. Michael Thomas is going to be one of the chalkiest wide receiver plays this week. I would rather just go Olave, and Carr's looking for him deep. They just haven't been connecting. I think this could be a Carr Olave day. Okay. $3,000 range people that I like. Now we're getting really thin. Oh man, it's so crazy to see like Odell, and then we'll also see probably Julio Jones down here priced at $3K. Crazy to think about if you were playing DraftKings 3 years ago. OBJ and Julio Jones being priced under $4K, but hey, they're older now. Okay, so before we digress too much, I like Van Jefferson. He's going to run as a wide receiver 1 for a guy that likes to push the ball down the field. 3,600. Not a bad price for a wide receiver. Here's the deal, though. Pitts is only 500 more. And Pitts is the real deal. Pitts is a all-pro type of talent. Van Jefferson's just a deep threat. So you're getting a $500 discount for him. If he was priced like 3,000 below 2, then I'd be like, okay, like I need to go with their wide receiver 1. But that's what's stopping me. But he's going to get volume. And if you don't want to play Pitts, then I would definitely plug in Van Jefferson. Gallup's another one that I like this week. I think this might be a week where they go like, we're taking Lamb out of the game and let everybody else beat us. I really think that Gallup could have his best game yet. This is one where I would gamble at 3,600 and take him. But, we've been chasing him pretty much all year. You can look at his stats. There's a reason why he's priced so low. We open it up really quick. 3,600. Yeah, I mean, the guy like really hasn't been doing much. You're either getting like less than 5 points or you're getting 10 to 15 with him. So it's tough. He did have 10 targets in the Chargers game, only 3 against the Rams. I mean, you pull this out. Dak was just hyping up CD before that, Eagles game. Like, well, let's get my guy going. But if you just pull last week out, his usage past 4 weeks isn't terrible for someone priced at 3,600. 10, 5, 6, 7. It's not bad. So it's a good offset, in my opinion, to what are going to be more popular players. And then lastly, the guy that I really like this week, if you don't want to go Tank Dell, I want to introduce you guys or reintroduce you to Noah Brown, who was slated to start the year as the third wide receiver, but when he got injured, that's sort of like when Tank Dell went back in got entered into the lineup. The thing that so past 2 games, 5 targets. I could see him doing well in this spot right here. He's only 3,100. Robert Woods is out. He's going to be the second receiver. So I think the way that they're going to play it is Nico on the outside, Brown on the other side, and then Tank in the slot. I like Brown here as the guy that people are just like not paying attention to, where he's going to get a lot of run. He could easily make up his salary. And guys, at 3,000, you're really just looking for like 9 to 12 points. You pull that off, and you can allocate more funds to an expensive player that you feel great about. Like, this would be the guy to do it with. So, something to consider on the wide receiver side. Tight ends. All right. I'm going to have a very interesting one in the $2,000 range. So I'm excited to talk about that. I would avoid Andrews. It's just too expensive. Even when the guy explodes, it's not much. 6,800 guys, you're going to need like 25 plus. And he's only hit 25, once this season? Yeah, I'm okay like allocating salary elsewhere, especially against a Seattle defense that's up and coming. That makes me nervous. Hawkinson's not playable with Jaren Hall. Dallas Goedert is okay, but he's going to be really chalky, so I'd rather fade it. Taysom Hill's an interesting one. I could see him doing well in this spot too. He's really been catching on as of late, but the problem is I just don't trust the coaching staff to just keep the ball rolling with this guy. So if you look at his game log past 2 weeks, he's really been doing well. So like look at that. 12, 16, 22.5 last week. This guy can do it all. He can catch, he can rush, he can throw the ball. You can have you can cover all three types of touchdowns with this guy. So I like him. And he can be in stacks with Carr and Olave, and he's also an offset to a chalky Kamara play. Schultz is interesting too. He didn't do much last week, but again, Houston just couldn't get moving last week against the Panthers. It was just not the best day for Stroud, so I'm hoping that he gets it together. But you can see that 10, 7, 5. He was trending upwards, but yeah, just had a dud game here, which is, this is why they're cheap. They could have that 10-point game or not. And then we talked about Pitts. We like him. We don't have to talk about him more. I like Ferguson here too. He's a little chalky, but yeah, I mean that's another one that I could see doing well next week too. In the $3,000 range, the only guy Njoku becomes playable, given that Watson's going. So I like him. I think he's okay. I would avoid Logan Thomas. I know that's a popular play. But the one that I probably like the most, but I'm not like crazy excited about, is Luke Musgrave. So I think that Jordan Love's going to get it together this week, and Musgrave's a pretty cheap play to take advantage of that. But again, my number one tight end play this week is going to be Kyle Pitts. So if you need to pay down, you can come down here. But if you're really strapped for cash, this is the guy that I like the most. And his name is Lawrence Cager, who's the tight end for the New York Giants. And we literally have to scroll all the way down to find this guy because he's that irrelevant to the mainstream. But I really like this guy. So you have two choices here. You have Darren Waller out, so you can either go Bellinger, who's more of like a run-blocking tight end, might pop open for like a 1-yard touchdown, or Lawrence Cager, who's like a freak athlete, and when he's been in these spots where he gets pressed up more and like gets more routes and everything, he runs like a receiver. He can be really dangerous in this spot. I like him, but you can see here, there's nothing here, just goose egg. He wasn't like really playing, and look, they signed him off the practice squad 2 weeks ago. Look him up. Look what he did last year. Like, he has that ability to like just break open for a touchdown. So if you're looking for like a wild, like out of nowhere play, Lawrence Cager would be my guy this week. Okay. Defenses. So chalkiest plays are going to be the Packers D, which is priced at 2,800 going up against an injured Stafford. I get that. You also have the Patriots going up against the Commanders, who people are harping on. That's another 2,900 play. And lastly, the Giants, who are the cheapest on the slate, 2,300 going into Vegas. I can get behind the Giants, but I try to avoid the Patriots and the Packers just because they're a little more expensive. So I'm fine if you just always want to go cheapest defense. And Giants do have upside. They've been providing points the past few weeks. Like I think they've had double digits defensive scoring for the past 3 weeks. So if we pull this open, look at their game log, you could see there. So 3 of the 4 weeks, 12, 5, 14, 12, they're over 10 points. They're making up their salary. So I don't know why they're priced at 2,300. They've really been coming along, guys. Um, so that's a misprice. But if you want to pay up, I like the Saints playing a rookie QB. That's one. If you have salary left over because you loved all of Andrew DFS's cheap options, that's one way of looking at it. Falcons against Jaren Hall. I like that one a lot too. And then Texans. I like the Texans. Baker Mayfield's a turnover machine. Texans D's really good. The Tampa offensive line's not that great, so I like the Texans D here too. Um, Going down the list, under under 3 grand, I could see a case again. It's okay if you want to go Pats. I wouldn't do it, but I see the logic behind it. But yeah, I mean, if I'm playing a defense in this range, I'll I'm gonna side with the Giants here, and honestly, maybe even Seattle. I might think about Seattle as a leverage fade. They're only $100 more than the Giants, but they've also been doing really well too. I could see them like have like a pick six on Lamar or something like that. That's certainly possible. So okay, we talked about this a little bit, but I also just wanted to bring up the chalky players one more time. So Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts. Those two are going to be owned by more than 30% of the pool. So keep that in mind. On the running back side, Alvin Kamara and Barkley. Like, what do you know? The two most expensive running backs are going to be the highly contested players. Then we have Bijan Robinson coming in, who he's going up against a pretty solid run D. And maybe people are thinking, okay, Drake London's out, Falcons are going to run the ball more, but I think that Beefle is going to sell out to stop the run. That's how I would do it too. You don't want Atlanta running the ball on you. Then everything else in Arthur Smith's playbook opens up. So if I'm Beeflo, Bijan's not going to be the one to beat me. I'm going to make Taylor Heineke beat me, which I think he certainly could. Then we have Josh Jacobs, who AOC loves to throw to. I can accept that chalk. Swift, I would fade it. So between Kamara, Barkley, Bijan, Jacobs, and Swift, I would bite Kamara, Barkley, and Jacobs. I would fade Bijan and Swift. Between Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts, circling back, I would fade Lamar, bite Jalen. Wide receivers, top 4 chalkiest guys. This is going to be owned by 30% of the pool or more. Terry McLaurin, Michael Thomas, Demario Douglas, and AJ Brown. I'm fading everyone except Douglas. I like biting chalk on cheaper players because it allows me to get different with more expensive players. So that's what you have to do. If you play chalk, you can't just go chalk everywhere. Then like that's more of a cash game. For a tournament, you can't do that. So I'm okay if you want to go Douglas and then have enough salary for like Devontae Adams or something like that. That's totally fine. Tight ends, there's a lot of them that are actually chalky this week. So like it's pretty like all of these are expected to be like 15% or more. Goddard, McBride, Hawkinson, Njoku, Ferguson. I'm okay with Goddard. I would fade McBride. I don't think that the rookie Clayton Tune is going to be able to do much against that crazy Cleveland D-line. Hawkinson, I'd fade. I don't trust Jaren Hall. Njoku, I'd bite. And Ferguson, I would also bite on that too. So 2 fades on that one. Last one, when we're going chalk and when we're just last position group, defense, 3 chalkiest plays: Green Bay, New England, Giants. Fade Green Bay. I'd bite New England, and I'd bite Giants. I'm not crazy about New England though. Like, I'd bite it, but I'm not happy about biting it. I'm happy biting into Giants though. I'm happy not fading them because they're cheap and I can allocate elsewhere. So that's it for this week, guys. We kept it under an hour, which is great. So if you like this, please subscribe, and you'll get the latest updates whenever we go live or whatever. Check out FFMetrics.com for the best projections in the game with the wonderful RC Fisher providing weekly breakdowns, fantasy projections, buy low, sell highs. That's the site you want if you want the edge in your league. And finally, shout out to the new podcast that I launched with my buddy Sirach K. We go live every Tuesday, and the podcast name is Huddle Up. You can find us on Spotify. Thank you so much for listening. Best of luck on your Week 9 betting endeavors, and we are out.